The Reserve Bank of Australia just reversed 10 Australian cities that will collapse by winter 2026. Australia's inflation rate has almost doubled in 6 months. The Reserve Bank of Australia has raised interest rates for the first time since 2023. Families are expected to pay an extra $2,000 on groceries and insurance in 2026. You know what nobody mentioned when the Reserve Bank cut rates 3 times last year? That they would reverse course 11 weeks later. On February 3rd, the Reserve Bank of Australia did something no major central bank on earth has done since the pandemic. They stopped cutting. They started hiking 3.85%. Markets already have a second increase priced in by September. This is not just about interest rates. This is about which cities were built to absorb the hit and which ones are standing on foundations that were already cracking. Here is the picture. Inflation went from 1.9% in June 2025 to 3.8% by December 2025. It doubled in 6 months. The shortest easing cycle in modern Australian history just ended, and we are heading back up. Roy Morgan, data shows 1.2 million mortgage holders are already at risk of mortgage stress. One hike pushes that to 1.23 million. A second pushes it past 1.32 million. That is 27% of all mortgage holders in the country. On a $600,000 loan, each 25 basis point increase adds roughly $90 a month. 2 hikes is $180 that was not in anyone's budget 3 months ago. The pain does not land evenly. Some cities absorb it, others quietly fall apart. These are 10 Australian cities facing the highest risk when the pressure gives way. Wait until you see number 1. This city saw house prices collapse by 2/3 during the last downturn, still has not recovered 14 years later, and the exact same conditions are forming right now. City number 10, Mackay, Queensland. Population approximately 80,000. Approximately 950 kilometers north of Brisbane. Median house price $480,000. Here's the thing about Mackay. This city does not have an economy. It has a coal price. When coal is high, Mackay feels like the richest regional city in Queensland. When it falls, everything collapses in sequence. Between 2012 and 2017, mining regions across Australia saw house prices crash by an average of 31.5%. In real terms, a $500,000 house became a $340,000 house. Your deposit, your equity, gone. Mackay has not diversified. Tourism and agriculture are rounding errors compared to the mines, and right now, China is cooling. Global thermal coal demand is structurally declining, and a rate hike just landed on top. I spoke with a mortgage broker in Mackay who has operated for 18 years. She told me the mood shifted the day of the announcement. Purchase contracts paused. Borderline pre-approvals became declines. She said the 2012 crash is still in people's memory, and one rate hike is enough to trigger that fear again. The trade-off is timing. If coal prices hold, Mackay survives bruised but standing. If they do not, there is no cushion. A boomtown that keeps betting everything on the same hand and wondering why it periodically loses its shirt. City number 9, the Whitsundays, Queensland. Population approximately 35,000, approximately 1,100 kilometers north of Brisbane. Median house price approximately $550,000. Paradise has a hidden weakness. The Whitsundays does not have an economy, it has tourism. When Australians have spare cash and international flights are full, it thrives. The second the economy turns, holidays are the first thing families cut. Not groceries, not rent, the holiday. And with inflation at 3.8% and mortgage repayments rising, that is exactly what is happening. Tourism operators borrowed heavily during the post-COVID rebuild. Those repayments just got more expensive. Staff who bought homes during the pandemic boom face higher costs on wages that have not moved. I spoke with a tour operator running reef trips for 22 years. He said, autumn bookings are down 15% year on year. He has cut operations from 6 days to 5. He told me this is exactly how 2009 started. First bookings thin, then cancellations increase, then hours get cut, then restaurants close early, then people lose houses. Same sequence every time. The trade-off is isolation. No manufacturing, no mining, no government sector large enough to absorb displaced workers. When tourism contracts, there is nowhere else to go. A paradise that only functions when everyone else has money to spend on it. City number 8, Hobart, Tasmania. Population approximately 240,000. Median house price approximately $680,000. Hobart is the city that fools people. Charming, cultural, trendy. Pandemic tree changes flooded in. Prices exploded. But underneath it, the economy is fragile. Here is the number. Tasmania has the highest mortgage stress rate in the country. 29.8% of Tasmanian mortgage holders are classified at risk. If the Reserve Bank hikes again, that climbs to 32.6%, the single largest jump of any state. Hobart's economy is small. Government jobs make up a huge share. When recessions hit, governments freeze hiring. Tourism is seasonal and vulnerable. And people who bought at pandemic peak prices with massive mortgages are now watching their equity shrink while repayments grow. I spoke with a couple in their early 40s who moved from Melbourne in 2021. They bought for $710,000. Comparable sales suggest it is now worth about $640,000. Repayments are up $200 a month. He works in state government. She works in hospitality. Both sectors that face headwinds. They said they feel trapped. They cannot sell without a loss. They cannot refinance because equity has shrunk. Just holding on. The trade-off is scale. In a city this small, there are not many jobs to jump to. A city that convinced a generation of tree changers it was the next big thing, then quietly started cracking under the weight of the mortgages they brought with them. City number 7, Geelong, Victoria. Population approximately 270,000, about 75 kilometers from Melbourne. Median house price approximately $700,000. Geelong is caught between two lives. For decades, a manufacturing powerhouse. Car factories, heavy industry. Then it all vanished. Ford closed in 2016. Thousands of jobs were lost. For 10 years, Geelong has been reinventing itself. Tech, education, health. Some of it is working, but the transformation is not complete. The old economy is gone. The new economy is not strong enough yet to carry the city through a major downturn. Geelong's median house price roughly doubled during the pandemic as Melbourne buyers flooded in. Many stretched to the absolute limit. An interest rate hike does not just inconvenience them, it breaks their budget. Geelong competes with Melbourne for everything. In a slowdown, Melbourne's gravity gets stronger. Companies consolidate. Talent migrates inward. Geelong gets left behind. I spoke with a cafe owner on Pakington Street who has been there 11 years. She said foot traffic dropped noticeably since late 2025. COVID tree changers are spending less. Some have gone back. The city feels like it is holding its breath. The trade-off is timing. Geelong is halfway across a tightrope. The old side is gone. The new side is not quite reachable. If a recession hits before it gets across, the city falls. City number 6, Gold Coast, Queensland. Population approximately 700,000, about 80 kilometers south of Brisbane. Median house price approximately $950,000. This is where people are going to get angry with me. The Gold Coast is built almost entirely on people spending money they do not need to spend. Tourism, hospitality, events, theme parks, restaurants, and lifestyle construction. These industries are extraordinary when times are good. They are the first to die when times get bad. During the pandemic, the Gold Coast went absolutely crazy. Money from Sydney and Melbourne flooded in, speculators piled in. But speculation works both ways. When prices rise, everyone wants in. When they start falling, everyone wants out fast. Roy Morgan data shows mortgage stress in Queensland is significantly higher outside Brisbane, and that includes the Gold Coast. A further rate rise pushes Queensland's at-risk share up by 3.2 percentage points. I spoke with an agent on the northern Gold Coast who has been selling for 16 years. She said listings are up 25% since Christmas. Buyer inquiry is down. Properties that would have had multiple offers last year are sitting for weeks. She called it a confidence recession. The numbers have not crashed. The feeling has shifted. The trade-off is psychology. If confidence holds, the Gold Coast rides it out. If another rate hike lands or unemployment ticks up, the confidence dam breaks. A city built on vibes, discovering what happens when the vibe changes. City number 5, Cairns, Queensland. Population approximately 155,000, approximately 1,700 kilometres north of Brisbane. Median house price approximately $530,000. Cairns has a fatal flaw. For every 4 residents, 1 tourist is visiting at any given time, a 4-to-1 ratio. The entire city is engineered to service visitors. We already saw what happens when tourism stops. During COVID, Cairns was devastated. Businesses closed permanently. Now imagine a recession where travel is not impossible, just too expensive. Chinese group bookings are down. Domestic stays are shorter. Families who would have booked a week are coming for 4 days. The rate hike compounds it. Tourism operators carrying post-COVID debt face higher repayments, and workers face higher mortgage costs. I spoke with a hospitality manager who has 20 years in tourism. She said when average stay drops even one night, everything downstream contracts. Fewer restaurant covers, fewer tour bookings, fewer retail sales. It cascades. The trade-off is structural. No manufacturing, limited agriculture, no mining. The Reserve Bank of Australia is deliberately cooling spending, and tourism-dependent cities get cooled first. A city that exists because the world finds it beautiful, discovering what happens when the world cannot afford beauty right now. City number 4, Port Hedland, Western Australia. Population approximately 16,000 people, approximately 1,650 kilometres north of Perth. Median house price, $580,000. Port Hedland exists for one reason: to dig iron ore and ship it to China. One commodity, one customer, one more eyes. Here is the precedent. The West Pilbara saw house prices plunge 55.1% from the 2010 peak. A $700,000 house became $316,000. That is not a correction. That is a catastrophe. And Port Hedland is set up exactly the same way. China is slowing. Guinea's Simandou mine is creating new competition, and now workers who bought at boom prices on variable rates face rising repayments, while mining companies face higher capital costs. Projects that were borderline become unviable. I spoke with a local workshop owner, 23 years in Hedland. He has seen 3 boom-bust cycles. He told me each follows the same script. Money comes in fast. People buy at inflated prices. Price drops. Workers leave. Anyone who bought late gets destroyed. He said the rate hike feels like the first rumble before an earthquake. Nothing has fallen yet, but the ground is vibrating. The trade-off is concentration. One commodity, one customer, one price, and now a 4th variable, interest rates. A town built on the assumption the good times are structural, learning they are cyclical. Again. City number 3, Broken Hill, New South Wales. Population approximately 17,500, about 1,150 kilometres west of Sydney. Median house price $200,000. Broken Hill is a ghost in slow motion. Once one of the richest places in Australia. BHP was born here. But that was a long time ago. The population has been shrinking for decades. Mines that once employed thousands now employ hundreds. Young people leave and never come back. And here is what makes the rate hike particularly cruel. The housing market is not inflated, it is frozen. A median price of $200,000 is not affordability, it is a market with no demand. Homeowners are not sitting on equity gains. They are stuck owning a house nobody wants to buy while their cost of living rises and employment options narrow. I spoke with a retired miner in his early 70s, a lifelong resident. He said the town has survived downturns before, but each one takes another piece out of it. A few more families leave. A few more businesses close. The school gets smaller. The hospital loses a doctor. He said this rate hike will not kill Broken Hill. Nothing does. It just keeps bleeding, one cut at a time. The trade-off is irreversibility. Other cities recover when the cycle turns. Broken Hill might not. People who leave during a downturn do not come back. Each bust is permanent subtraction. A city that has survived everything Australia has thrown at it, surviving one more thing, with less to survive with each time. City number 2, East Pilbara, Newmar, Western Australia. Population approximately 11,000. Located approximately 1,200 kilometres north of Perth. Median house price between $300,000 and $450,000. B-roll Newman townscape, empty houses, mine site. Music builds. This is where the numbers become genuinely horrifying. The East Pilbara experienced the worst property collapse in modern Australian history. Between 2012 and 2017, house prices collapsed by 66.8%. The median fell from $718,000 to $238,000, a loss of $480,000. 2/3 of the value gone. Think about what that does to a person. You buy a house thinking you are building wealth, then you watch 2/3 of its value disappear. You cannot sell without losing everything. You are stuck paying a massive mortgage on a fraction of what you owe. Some people simply walked away and mailed the keys to the bank. The East Pilbara is still sitting 28% below its 2012 peak. After 14 years, it still has not recovered. There is no tourism. There is no agriculture. Nothing beyond what exists to support the mines. When mining contracts, everyone leaves. There is literally no one left to buy the houses. I spoke with a property manager in Newman overseeing 60 rentals. She said vacancy rates started creeping up since late 2025. Rents are softening. A couple of expected contract renewals did not happen. She has seen this pattern before in 2013. Vacancies tick up. Rents drop. Sale prices follow. The population leaves. People who lived through 2012 have a phrase for it. They call it the emptying. It starts slowly, then all at once. The trade-off is structural impossibility. There is no mechanism to diversify. It exists purely because of what is in the ground. This is a region that experienced a 2/3 collapse, never recovered, and is now watching the same conditions form again, plus a rate hike. Number 1. Karratha, Western Australia. Population approximately 22,000. About 1,535 kilometres north of Perth. Median house price approximately $600,000. And here we arrive at the most fragile city in Australia. Karratha is not the smallest city on this list and not the most isolated, but it has the deadliest combination of vulnerabilities. Everything that can go wrong in a downturn converges here, and the February rate hike just added accelerant to a structure already soaked in fuel. First, extreme mining dependency. Karratha exists for liquefied natural gas and iron ore. That is not the main economy. That is the entire economy. Financial risk has surged to the top concern for Australia's mining sector heading into 2026, with rising costs and inflation crushing margins. Second, insane price volatility. During the mining boom, houses that should have cost $300,000 sold for over $1 million. Then the bust came, prices collapsed. The West Pilbara has only recovered to 92.4% of its previous peak, still $54,000 below 2010, 16 years later. Third, the China factor. Everything depends on China buying Australian resources. If China slows, if they source from Africa's Simandou project, if demand drops even moderately, Karratha implodes. Fourth, the fly-in fly-out workforce. A huge chunk of the population does not live there permanently. When contracts end, workers disappear overnight. Restaurants, shops, gyms, rental properties, all collapse with them. Fifth, no backup plan. No alternative economy. No tourism, no agriculture, no manufacturing. Nothing. And now rates are rising. Workers who bought during the boom are on variable mortgages that just got more expensive. NAB forecasts another hike in May. 80% of Western Australia's mines sit in cyclone-prone areas. Climate vulnerability stacked on economic vulnerability. I spoke with a teacher who has been in Karratha 9 years. She bought 3 years ago for $580,000. She told me she watches the mining news like other people watch the weather. When a contract is announced, she relaxes. When one gets delayed, she starts calculating. Her repayments are now $320 more per month than when she bought. She can absorb it, but she knows people who cannot. Younger teachers, retail workers, hospitality staff. The people who make the town function but earn a fraction of what miners earn. She said if another hike comes, some of them will leave. And when people start leaving Karratha, it cascades fast. No generational roots, no anchor, just money. When the money gets tight, people go. Here is why Karratha takes the top position. Mackay has some regional services. The Gold Coast has 700,000 people. Hobart has government. Broken Hill survives through stubbornness. The East Pilbara has already crashed and is at least psychologically braced. Karratha has none of those buffers. Highest risk concentration, highest price volatility history, highest dependency on a single customer, most transient population, and now the highest sensitivity to rate increases because its workers borrowed at peak boom prices on variable rates. This has happened before. It will happen again. The February hike just moved the timeline forward. A city built on the assumption that the boom is permanent, in a country where every boom eventually ends. So what's the pattern? 3 things, separate cities, that survive from ones that collapse. Single industry dependency. When one sector dominates everything, there is no buffer. When it fails, everything fails together. High household debt. Australians need an average of 10.6 years to save a house deposit. People who bought at peak prices are sitting on mortgages that could drown them. Lack of diversity. Cities with multiple industries can redistribute workers when one sector fails. Single industry cities cannot. Let me be completely honest. None of this is guaranteed. Australia has proven resilient before. Economic cycles are cycles. But if you live in one of these places, I am not telling you to panic. I am not telling you to sell everything. I am telling you to watch. Employment trends, housing velocity, small business closures, population flow. These are not abstract indicators. They are real signs your city is starting to crack. The cities that survive best will not be the ones that buried their heads. They will be the ones that saw the cracks forming and prepared. If you made it this far, subscribe for Australian economic content that does not pretend trade-offs do not exist. Comment, which city surprised you most, or tell me what you are seeing on the ground if you live in one of these places. Like the video so the algorithm shows it to people who need it, not just people searching for property spruiker content. Stay informed. The storm is coming. The only question is how hard it hits your city. See you in the next one.